Good morning from my end. Rafael Chabakajere here. We are moving and we are able. Biafra is the goal. Biafra is a goal. And we have achieved more than we ever imagined. Fellow Biafrans, Nigeria ignored at the instance or at the request of the Organization of Emerging African States, which Biafra actually belongs. It is not just one state, Organization of States. And the request was made to Nigeria several times to give us the opportunity and the privilege to hold a referendum. So to also as to avoid fracas, to avoid war, to avoid bloodshed, to avoid every of these mishaps that are happening, they refused and they ignored. But today, because Biafra is ordained by Chukwu Kabiama, a way have come out, and we have taken that way to be able to have our own self-referendum in a very legal and legitimate order by technology, technologically approved, with no hitches, with no foul play, with no fraud and no fake. Everything has happened under the nose of everyone in the whole world. And having taken that step, this Organization of Emerging African States have approved our steps and approved our decision. And by the grace of Chukwu Kabiama, Biafra definitely will be declared December 2024. And everything that will stop Biafra from becoming a nation is being crushed as we go. It's being crushed as we go. And as God would have it, Nigeria is descending into abyss. Nigeria is going down and going down. And Biafra is emerging and emerging to the glory of Chukwu Okike Abiama. So join me, watch this video that I'm going to attach to this, and please make sure it goes viral. Make sure it gets to everyone that has doubt in what this Biafra Republic government in exile is doing and has done. Ebo, please watch these videos. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share it and let everybody see it. All hail Biafra. We are here to stay, the nation of God, the nation of truth and justice in Africa. Nothing can stop us. Thank you.
In Biafra, Africa died, and in Biafra, Africa will rise. Today, there are movements all over Africa to liberate Africa from neocolonialism. Biafra will not be exceptional. In 2011, Biafra became a charter member of the Organization of Emerging African States. And in December 2015, the Organization of the Emerging African States called on the Nigeria government to hold a referendum on Biafra self-determination within 90 days, including the option of the total independence as the Republic of Biafra, a transitional phase of not more than 180 days. My fellow Biafrans, it may surprise a lot of people to know that this actually happened. Nigeria ignored it. In 2016, the Organization for Emerging African States repeated the call for referendum as the sponsor of the All Biafran Conference of Accra, which took place in 2016. My fellow Biafrans, in October of 2020, the Organization of Emerging African States repeated its demand for referendum on Biafra self-determination to the government of Nigeria. All these calls were ruthlessly ignored by the Nigeria state. The Organization for Emerging African States, after deliberation, has endorsed the Biafra Republic Government in Exile self-referendum on Biafra for many reasons, and one of those reasons, or some of those reasons, are as follows. Nigeria refused to administer or permit a third party to conduct Biafra referendum. The organization also noted that the African Charter of Human and People's Rights guarantees the right to self-determination of everyone, including Biafra people.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. I want to point out a couple things. First of all, Biafra is, of course, a charter member of the Organization of Emerging African States and was, as usual, leading the way for liberation from neocolonialism in Africa by coming together with the two other charter members, Southern Cameroons and Cabinda, to form that organization, which has now grown much larger. Dr. Akwanga, the Secretary General, Ebenezer Akwanga, who could not be here today, he's up in northern Ghana. He sends his regards to you, Prime Minister, in consultations with him. It was a revelation to the Organization of Emerging African States that, again, Biafra shows the initiative to hold a self-referendum because, of course, in the past, we always asked Nigeria to hold the referendum. And of course, that's a mistake. 3 times Nigeria has been asked, even more times by others. And now the technology and initiative exists. So we have the ability to hold a referendum that, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the Organization of Emerging African States, will meet all international law standards. Because of course, we're using digital and local methods. The referendum can be verified and will be the will of the people. And Biafra, again, leads the way in Africa with this. So under international law, referendum is by and large, of course, is the preferred method to achieve independence, because then there's no question about what the people want. Once this referendum is finished and the results announced, they will be binding under international law. Biafra, if it's the will of the people, if the republic is to be restored, then that is what will happen. The Organization of Emerging African States will be one of the first to congratulate and certify the results of that referendum. And as I believe other international organizations must do so also. For example, several years ago, an inquiry was made to the European Union by the OAS on behalf of Biafra, what their opinion was about the situation and holding a referendum. The external service of the European Union said, of course, we support all ways of achieving self-determination recognized by international law. And of course, the premier way to do this is the referendum. So again, there's no question. I think if you ask anybody, a well-coordinated referendum meets all requirements under international law.